Blue skies outside as well. It feels like fall is on its way after a very hot stretch of the month of July. Happy Tuesday to you, and as it is every single day, it is so good to have you with us. Spence Checketts behind the mic, Porter Larson behind the glass today producing the program. More hot temperatures ahead. I am not saying that we have escaped the hot weather. I'm saying today feels good based off of what we've definitely had in front of us. Of course, Utah football camp opened up yesterday. Some sound from coaches and players up on the website at ESPN700sports.com. We might bring some of that sound back around to you today. And it is poll season, of course, as we're all awaiting the start of college football. About 4 weeks away or so, 29 days away for the Utes. We've got the coaches poll, the preseason coaches poll. We'll let you know where Utah landed, BYU, some Big 12 teams as well. BYU at 15. The Utes come in at 21. Kyle Whittingham and the Michigan Wolverines come in at 16. Ohio State, your overwhelming number one team in the country. It goes Ohio State, Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Notre Dame, Indiana, Miami, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Alabama. 11 teams before you find a Big 12 school, and that is Texas Tech, who comes in at 12. As I often say, if you pay attention pretty early on, the powers that be in college football, the decision makers in college football, the people that cover the sport and kind of decide what the access looks like, certainly for a 12-team CFP, tell us pretty early on that the Big 12 is a one-bid league. You have to go win that league if you want to make it in. Now, a few different dynamics this year could change that. We'll go over some of those on the program today. As camp rolls on, Camp Scally up on the hill, underway for the Utes. I want to let you know for the best coverage of the Utah Fall Camp, keep it tuned to the OC show. And, of course, this show every day, The Drive with Spence Checketts. And visit ESPN700sports.com. Camp Scally is brought to you by CenXL, JBR, Beer Bar, Citron Cooperman, and your Utah Toyota dealers on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. So a lot of college football content coming your way on the program today. Some NFL news. Bijan Robinson is now the highest paid running back in the history of pro football. Zay Flowers got himself a nice 4-year, $140 million extension as we're inching closer and closer to the start of the NFL as well. So some NFL storylines to get to on the program, in addition to some Utah football. And, of course, BYU and Utah State will start tomorrow. As far as their fall camp foray goes, preseason Pac-12 polls are out. Not a lot of people believe Utah State will be in the mix to win the conference after what I would characterize as a pretty successful year. First year for Bronco Mendenhall last year. We'll see if the Aggies can kind of take a little step forward there. So we'll get to some of the college football storylines on the show. Most of the offseason NBA stuff is kind of quieted down. A lot of previews now coming up for the NBA season ahead. We talked about the Vegas over-under win total for the Utah Jazz coming in at 34.5, which felt low, and that puts them at 11 in the NBA. But not a lot of NBA storylines right now. It's kind of a dead time after free agency, after summer league. Of course, the draft is behind us. So, of course, I think there's a lot of excitement in the market about the potential of the Jazz at least taking a step forward. It is a match day for Real Salt Lake. The Leagues Cup will begin tonight in Sandy. Tigres is in town to take on RSL. That is an 8 o'clock first kick on FS1. You can see it on Apple Television as well. And remember, Steve Starks, the CEO of the LHM Group, who is kind of the guy running the thing as it pertains to the ownership side of stuff for Real Salt Lake, joined the show about, 3 weeks, a month ago now, and said, look, we are not looking to sell these good young players. We are looking towards the future with an additive mindset. They want to add to the group. The summer transfer window in Major League Soccer will close on September the 2nd, so still a few weeks left for RSL to add some pieces. But Tom Bogert, friend of the program, Tommy Scoops, I think, as he's known, is reporting that Crystal Palace is in advanced talks to sign Xavier Gozo from Real Salt Lake. They're looking at a $15 million price tag. There was an initial offer made that I was told was not of interest to RSL, but as we've talked about before, I don't love this dynamic, but ultimately the reality is there probably is a number that if RSL is able to receive this offer, they're not going to be able to say no for Xavier Gozo. So on a match day for RSL, a story that is out there that might be a little bit of a distraction for the team. Now, Gozo had a little bit of a hip injury he picked up during the MLS All-Star game, which kept him out of their last match against St. Louis. So we'll kind of see how this plays out in real time. Gozo, at 19 years old, is an elite athlete and a very good player and a local kid, too. I mean, he's like the perfect face for RSL as somebody who was raised here, as somebody who grew up here, who was developed here in this ecosystem, and now has become this rising young star for RSL, who certainly would be my preference to see Gozo stay. But Crystal Palace apparently is very aggressive as far as their desire to pry him away from RSL. So if anything comes down, we will bring it to you. Good guest list today on the program. Ron McBride will be live in studio. That's right. The legendary Coach Mac will be live in studio for an hour starting at 3 o'clock. We'll talk some Utah football, some fall camp. Coach Mac's got a fun event coming up that we're going to talk about, so stay tuned for that. Brian Dunseth on a match day for RSL. And, of course, the latest was Xavier Gozo. And then the voice of the Utes, Bill Riley, will join us in addition to that. So a lot of college football, a lot of Utah football, a lot of Camp Scally, and so a little bit of RSL with the breaking news with Ron McBride, Brian Dunseth, Bill Riley, me, Spence Checketts. All of you, the great listeners, hello, how are you? Happy Tuesday. And soccer transfer expert Porter Larson producing the program. Crystal Palace, 15 mil. What do you think?
It's a competitive number. They obviously really want Gozo, and I think probably just a matter of time before he's playing overseas. Which
your attention is at Utah football camp right now.
No, it's all on RSL. Leagues Cup action.
Leagues Cup. 5
matches in 15 days here in Sandy in Salt Lake.
Mm-hmm.
So no, I'm all about the pitch for the next couple weeks.
I thought you were up getting sound today, Utah practice.
I was, yeah.
Vibes good?
Yeah.
Immaculate?
Sure.
Wow.
Vibes are good.
It's a big deal.
I don't think there's ever a question about the vibes with one Morgan Scally, but how much power does that have when you start playing football, right? Yes, we're vibes guys on the show, but results are the driver, and you know what brings down the vibes? Losing. So
it does.
They better not do that.
It does. Look, hashtag team fun, as we've talked about on the show, but we are results over vibes on this program. All right, our first guest today, we're going to bring Ronnie Mack in studio. We've got some other potentially sound coming in. We got a loose situation that we're tracking. We'll let you know what that looks like. But I always enjoy catching up with Coach Mack. He's going to join us live in studio today. We also have Dunny and Bill Riley. But before we get into all that on a Tuesday afternoon, it's time now for your opening tip, which is brought to you by our good friends at IFA Country Stores. Now, here's the deal with IFA Country Stores. Even though it is hot right now, it feels pretty good today. It is going to cool down in a little bit. And if you've been listening to the program over the past few months, we're helping you out with the IFA Country Stores, their Step 3 summer and lawn food. So like any good coach, it's time to update the game plan for a healthy green lawn. And as the hot weather continues this month, make sure you're using IFA Step 3 spring and summer lawn food for healthy turf that stays green every season. IFA Step 3 lawn food, it is the ultimate lawn owner power move. So I want to remind you that now that fall camp has started for Utah football, if you are looking for sound, today we have a lot of sound. We're going to bring some of that to you, whether it's coaches and players. ESPN700sports.com is where you want to go for all of that. And as I talked about yesterday, we'll kind of continue to cover fall camp in this way. I'm tremendously curious, without really having a ton of known, with the dynamic of Utah football this year, to see how this stuff is going to go. So, and as we kind of keep track of the way that people that cover the sport are talking about the Utes, it's a mixed bag. There are a lot of people that believe with both quarterbacks back and Ultimately, Morgan Scalley taking over for Coach Witt. They're not going to miss much of a beat. And there are people that are just kind of waiting to see what this is going to look like. When we were at Big 12 Media Days down in Frisco a few weeks back, I found it really interesting how many people would deflect questions about Morgan to Sean and I. We'd have media members from the Big 12, from other markets, play-by-play voices, or just players and coaches. And whenever we would ask about Morgan Scalley, the head coach, most of them would say, well, you tell us, because we're kind of waiting to see how this is going to go. There are very few programs in the country that have had the same voice for 21 years, every single fall, preparing for a football season. It puts Utah in a very, very short, on a very, very short list of teams that can say they had the same voice for 21 years. Certainly in the modern day and age of college football, what we experienced here during this offseason with Witt leaving and taking coaches from both Utah and BYU and players and recruits, that's commonplace in other parts of the country. It's not that common here. Certainly in other places, like last year, I was thinking about this. James Franklin lost his job before like October last year. Spence State was thought to be this national championship contender. So many coaches lose their jobs so early in the season throughout the course of the cycle, and it just doesn't happen here very much. And ultimately, I still think both Utah and BYU, comparatively speaking to their peers in both the Big 12 and elsewhere, they seem to have a tremendous amount of stability more often than not losing a ton of players to the transfer portal, not losing a ton of coaches more often than not. That's what makes this offseason unique. But when you have 2 new coordinators, a new head coach, 4 new positional coaches, and you're losing 5 offensive linemen, you're losing a tremendous amount. Your best pass rusher lives in Ann Arbor. Your best defensive back is playing for Michigan. When you lose all of that, I just think it's really difficult to hone in on exactly what we're going to see and make any sort of prediction, which in college football is a fool's errand every year anyway, but even more so in the modern day. And to me, that reveals a layer of what I would perceive to be excitement, because you never know which one of these schools is going to suddenly rise up and potentially compete for and maybe even win a national championship. Like Indiana had a really good year 2 years ago, but Indiana and Miami were the last 2 teams standing, right? And nobody saw that coming. And that's what makes college football the unique, exciting product that it is. It has always been the most unpredictable sport. It has always been the sport that's the most problematic to try to decipher what this thing is going to look like. Now, most every year, and certainly this year is no different because we do have the preseason coaches poll, the names at the top appear to be the same. Ohio State, Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Notre Dame, Indiana, Miami, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Alabama, and then finally you get to a Big 12 team in Texas Tech. The top 7 teams that are favored to win the national championship, both in prediction markets and in Vegas, it's Big 10 and SEC. There's nobody that believes the Big 12 has a national championship contender, and it's kind of hard to blame them. I mean, Texas Tech in 2 opportunities last year smokes BYU, and then they get blanked by Oregon. If the Big 12 really wants to change the way it is talked about throughout the course of the national college football ecosystem, there's only one thing that is going to do this. And it's probably getting more than one team in the CFP and having those 2 teams perform well come playoff time. Now, prior to that, there will be some opportunities. BYU welcomes in Notre Dame. Notre Dame is one of the 6-7 favorite teams, top 6-7 favorite teams to win the national championship. My guess is, even though that game is in Provo, BYU is going to be a double-digit underdog. If BYU can beat Notre Dame and this thing kind of plays out a little bit the way we think it might, then maybe the Big 12 starts to change the conversation about who they are in the ecosystem of college football. But until then, it's going to be the same when it comes to the teams that are given the benefit of the doubt. And which of these schools, which of these teams will actually live up to it and which of these coaches could be in danger the way James Franklin was a year ago after like 3 weeks. I feel like Texas could be one of those teams that if they don't get off to this great start, like Sarkisian seems to get the benefit of the doubt every year. Of course, Arch Manning obviously have a good roster. But for the second straight year, they're a top 5 preseason team. Didn't live up to it last year. What will it look like this season? Most people believe that the Big Ten clearly has kind of established itself as the class of college football, certainly at the top. There's no doubt about that. And Ohio State and Oregon right now on most lists are the 2 teams most people believe have the best chance to win the national championship at the end. But again, the top 11 teams in college football are in the SEC or the Big Ten. Texas Tech lands at 12. You get BYU at 15. You have, Utah at 21. And then Houston's the only other big team in the top 25 at 24. So you do have 4 Big 12 teams in the top 25, but no Big 12 teams in the top 11. And as we inch closer and closer, I find this really fascinating to try to kind of cover the way people are talking about Utah as to whether or not they think they'll have something to say about the Big 12 championship this year. Coach Mack is going to join us live in studio. We also have Dunny today on a match day for RSL. And, of course, the voice of the Utes, Bill Riley. A lot of college football, little RSL coming your way on a Tuesday drive. And it's good to have you along for the ride right here on ESPN 700. Look forward to having Coach McBride, the legendary Ronnie Mack, live in studio. We'll do some Utah football. We'll talk fall camp, and we'll talk about this cool event that Coach Mack has coming up. We'll also have Brian Dunseth join us today. It's a match day for RSL, and there are rumors that Xavier Gozo might be on his way out. See what Dunny has to say about that. Voice of the Utes, Bill Riley, will join us later on. So a lot of college football in the program today, a lot of Utah football as fall camp has begun. And for BYU and Utah State, they'll get going coming up tomorrow. So fall camp is here. As I talked about yesterday, it does kind of feel like the official start of the college football calendar. Game day is 29 days away for the Utes, so we're about 4 weeks away from where we're actually getting games. But here's some good sound from players today. We did some coaches yesterday. So Porter was up on the hill to talk to some Utah players. Let's get into it. We'll start with who a lot of people believe was probably the biggest snub off the Big 12 preseason team. Here's Utah safety Jackson Benny.
Jackson, how are we feeling? You're a vet now.
Man,
you're doing a lot here. How
you're
you
a dad now.
You're a dad.
I am a dad. Yeah. No, I am Poppy now. I am officially a father. No, it's crazy. It really does feel like yesterday it was my first fall camp. You know, I think every year goes by a little quicker. You know, this is definitely here a lot sooner than it was before. Getting used to things. But it's great. I love it. It's fun to be one of the older guys. So.
Morgan called out the competition in the safety room yesterday. Just what are you seeing from, the room?
Yeah, no, there's a lot of guys that can play. It's definitely not a shoo-in. It's a lot of good competition. Everybody owns their 20 square feet. Everybody brings a little bit different to the table. But, yeah, we got a really good room.
How much more comfortable do you feel operating as a safety defensive back out there?
Yeah, I'd say, I don't know, almost as if it was like January 1st this year. Just, I don't know, a switch in my mind or something. I just have felt a little bit more comfortable out there. I feel like I made a few mental errors today, which is, never the best. But, for the most part, I feel a lot more comfortable not thinking about too much anymore and trying to develop my game where not thinking about the defense, and now I'm trying to, more focused on the offense, what they're doing. So.
I was going to say, to that point, you talked about, not being a finished product yet. How have you kind of taken this last year and watching the tape and doing all that to help you to move forward into this year?
Yeah, there's a few things that I wanted to work on. My size, wanted to get a little bigger. I've been trying to focus on my weight, reading offenses, understanding route concepts a little bit better, just certain things like that that I still need a lot of work on, but those things are, I'd say, the biggest things I've been focusing on this offseason.
How different has a Morgan Scally fall camp been? I mean, you said in the spring you could tell he wants to die for the players. I think that's what you said.
Yeah, he will.
But what is the first couple of days of fall camp with him as head coach look like?
No, it's been great. Yeah, he definitely cares about our bodies and our physical well-being, and he understands that it's tough out here. It's physically and mentally taxing, but he definitely is doing the best for the players. He's being smart, but his thing is, hey, we're doing this. We might not have a 24-period practice. It's just 15 periods today, but you have to give me 100% everything you got. And so that's kind of our thing. If whatever we're doing, he's going to help us out if we do our part. So.
Who are some of the other top names in that safety room that are standing out so far?
Yeah, Rabbit, Richie, Tillman, and we got a few awesome younger classmen. Josh Sovereign had 2 picks today. Let's see, Manny. We have a lot of. It's pretty deep. So I love what we have now, and I'm really excited to see in the future how those safeties develop because they got a lot of talent.
How different is a Colton Swan-led defense so far?
I would say not much different. Same defense as it's been for a long time. They add their own little twists on it, but for the most part, it's been the same. That's it.
You said you wanted to get bigger this offseason. How was it under Saunders and just this new weight strength and conditioning program?
Yeah, it's been great. Saunders he's awesome. I love him. He's a great dude. I'd say with Saunders, the difference, he is definitely time under tension with the reps, slow down, pause, quick up, and not as much weight on the bar. But we've been able to get a lot stronger that way. and just different muscle fibers and things that he focuses on that I've loved a lot.
Last year you kind of broke onto the scene due to a lot of injuries, but this year it seems like you're kind of in a leadership role and you're one of the top guys in the room. Just how different has that been for you compared to what it was last year?
I would say not different at all, really. I mean, every single day I'm trying to compete. You know, it hasn't changed since I got here as a walk-on till now, and I always have to remember that. I can never get complacent. And so, yeah, it's just compete every day. I need to watch, hours of film. How can I be better? What's the technique that I need to use? Anybody can help me, from the guys that have been here a while to some newcomers. I ask them, how, hey, I like that. How do you do that? So I'm try to be a sponge as much as I can. I want to be the best that I can. So yeah, I'd say it's not much different.
All right, Utah safety Jackson Benny played in all 13 games last year, made 11 starts on defense, and of the 11 starts, 3 were on offense, if you remember that. Interesting time for the Utes. All Big 12 honorable mention, led the secondary and ranked second on the team last year with 64 tackles, 4 tackles for a loss, and half a sack. The question, Porter, is my man still rocking the elite mustache?
He is.
Okay, good.
Can confirm. Good.
Did you ask any questions? I was trying to listen to. Did you ask any questions in that scrum?
Not with Jackson.
Let's throw some elbows, dude. Get in the scrum.
I don't know.
All right. Just not motivated today?
Just not, if someone gets to mind, then, I'm not just going to throw one out there for the sake of doing so.
You want to be intentional with your questions.
Exactly.
You don't just want to hear the sound of your own voice like some.
Correct.
Okay, fair enough. A lot expected from Jackson this year. Certainly one of the key returning players for the Utes. Let's get you some more sound. Stay tuned. We've got a bunch coming your way. Here's friend of the program and Utah linebacker, John O'Hall.
Oh, you're back. How's everything feeling after that spring and summer? How are you feeling right now?
Man, feel amazing. Feel excited. This team, I'm loving the chemistry of this team and how we're moving. Where the whole defense is loving going against the offense, man. It's running like a real fast race car, man.
Who are some of the guys on offense that stand out so far to you?
Creed Whitmore. You obviously know Dev Dampier, but we got some guys that's coming up. Just be tuned in and watch, for sure.
Talk about that competition in the linebacker room, the guys that are competing for playing time.
Yeah, man, we got a great group of core guys in that linebacker room. Any of them guys could come in and play right now, man. Dude. We all play as one, man. We go in there, we watch film together, we practice together, man. We do everything together, man. So it's all love between the linebackers, for sure.
What's your role in that linebacker room now as a veteran?
I'm one of the guys, man. I look at myself as just one of the guys. I treat, you feel me, a freshman, or I treat the sophomore just how they treat me. I don't feel like I'm anything above anybody else.
What about Cyrus Bobo? Obviously, he's young. He hasn't got a ton of experience, but I hear a lot about him and spring and everything. What's his development been like?
Man, Cyrus is dog, man. Cyrus, he's quick. He's a fluid mover. He can strike. He's fast. He got all the tools to be a great linebacker, for sure.
What has it been like with Colton just kind of being elevated from his former position and now being defensive coordinator? Has there been any adjustments for you or just for him you've noticed?
Just small minor adjustments that he got his own system. But mostly everything transferable, for sure.
There was a lot of talk yesterday about the strength and conditioning program being a little different, being a little bit more intense. How would you describe the summer workouts for yourself and the linebackers?
Yeah, man, we trained hard. Coach Saunders, he got us in there, and he worked us out every single day, man. We was training hard. Every single workout was a killer workout. So hopefully we know it's going to pay off this season, and we can't wait to see.
How have you seen the guys in front of you on that defensive line maybe grow from the end of spring to now?
Yeah. Oh, man, Carson, he's really taking that step as a leader, man. Taking care of the DTs, taking care of that D lineman. Ethan Day on that DN, Lance Holzclaw DN. So everybody on that D line, we really excited for sure.
How much easier does it make your job as a linebacker if that D line is efficiently doing their job?
Man, it's incredibly. It makes my job 10 times easier. If they you feel me, take on 2 blocks or whatever the case may be, we love them guys and we love them guys up. I had to go. You feel me? I got to go take them guys out to dinner or whatever case may be. So we'll see.
Who are some of the transfers that since kind of the spring you feel like have started to really catch on and are in
Really catch on? It's a couple guys. I say a lot of our cornerbacks. I say our cornerbacks is really coming on, and they're really doing their thing. And like I said, Ethan Day, he is really becoming the guy. So we're very excited for them.
John O'Hall has really grown into quite the player and the leader. He is a senior this year, 38 games played at Utah, 17 starts, came to Utah as a safety, moved to linebacker in 2024. Last year started all 13 games, all Big 12 honorable mention, led the team with 67 tackles, had 2.5 sacks, 10.5 third down stops, 6 tackles for losses. And Porter, when we interviewed him during Big 12 Media Day, a couple things. First of all, just a really dynamic personality. But one of the players that last December was genuinely considering leaving after the coaching stuff. And one of the guys, and you'll hear from some of the other players in a minute, but Jono was very adamant that he wanted to come back and play for Morgan. Told us that Big 12 Media Day.
Yeah, and it's going to be exciting to see the fruits of that on the field. Jono's a guy who, if you watch the tape, he's got a real nose for the football, right? Like a lot of times he's out beyond the line of scrimmage. He's if you see a forced fumble or a recovery or a tipped pass, he's very often the guy that is at least in the scrum there, and sometimes would get in a little over his toes in that regard, right? Learning the linebacker position, part of it is not over pursuing and maintaining your assignment. And I think that as Jono kind of grows into that, which from all accounts he really has, he's going to be a really, really good linebacker. And I think Morgan Scalley thinks that as well.
Another one of those players that Morgan and Colton Swan and the team will count on, not just on the field for his play, but leadership to help some of these transfers and young men understand what they need to do to play football at Utah. All right, let's continue. A hell of a year last year for Devin Dampier. To me, it's hard to expect him to honestly improve and play better because he was just so good a year ago. A lot of it's going to be predicated on his health. He's been very honest about that. But let's continue, this time with Utah QB1. Here's Devin Dampier.
How you feeling day one? Take us through.
Man, I feel great, honestly. I thought our team, we've been working hard without the coaches here a lot, building culture without them. So, for finally the coaches to be back and, see how far we've come together as a team, first practice, I thought it went well.
How comfortable are you with Coach McGivens' schemes and the offense as a team now?
Yeah, I'm very comfortable. Mac G, he tells me all the time, he wants to dedicate this offense to what he feels I do best. And for us to just keep having conversations, we have days where we can get better. We have days where, we take the good out of the practice and, we just keep elevating the offense from there. So I'm happy that he respects my talents and what I can do so we can thrive as an offense.
How was the offseason like for the offensive line?
Man, a very time for them to mentally get stronger and just more explosive. There's a lot of days Coach Saunders makes our workouts very orientated to the position, and you can tell those offensive linemen, a lot of them lost about 5-10 pounds of fat and then also gained like 10-15 pounds of muscle. So for them to have that transformation just in the summer, man, now they get to showcase it out here and be at their best.
Where do you feel like you're at just in terms of some of the improvements you made this offseason, and how are you excited to implement them here in fall?
Yeah, I think a lot of this offseason was me getting together with the receivers. We brought in so many new guys, so they all have their own little spin to their own routes and how they see things on the field. So to get on the same page, that was something that was brought to my attention I needed to do during the offseason. So I thought we came out here and, were able to showcase that.
How often did you guys get together, just with you and the receivers?
Yeah, there would be days where we had a harder workout, so I'd let them be stationary, just more tracking, more things like that. And the days we did less running, we got more into routes, we got more into putting out coverages in our head. The other receivers would be out there being defenders, and, we would just try to implement the field how it would look on the field. So yeah, that's kind of how we went about it.
How much of the off season are you watching film with you and Bird and the coaches?
Yeah, off season, it's a little bit. It'll ramp up when we get closer to the weeks of looking at our opponents. I feel like we watched a lot of film during spring. We watch it out by ourselves. We watch it with the coach when he comes in. So there's a lot that we've already learned from the spring. So summer's just a time to literally work on the body. It's time to you have that time set aside from film to get your body right. So this is when film digs into that process.
How much do you have to just kind of mentally reset in terms of not worrying about the football, just kind of giving yourself a break so that this doesn't become a chore in some respects? Does that make sense?
I love football. At the end of the day, everyone out here, we love football. We all signed up for this. I've never heard of an easy fall camp, so we kind of know what to expect when we're here. And we just go about it where you love each other. We're such a bonded team that like being out here is fun. It's not taxing. It doesn't feel like we're being forced to be dragged out here. Everyone in this building knows that we got big plans ahead. We just talked about it yesterday how we want to win a Big 12 championship. So just with that thought process, we got to do it every day.
What's it like sharing the quarterback room with Bird and having somebody like him in the offense?
Man, Bird is great, honestly. I think the biggest thing I take away, obviously we're best friends outside of this, but especially during football, he's a very talented player. So, I go out there, I do 4 plays, I think I did good, then Bird goes out there, he throws a touchdown. I'm like, okay, now I'm going to answer back. And then, we just keep elevating each other where, eventually when he takes over, he's going to be that guy. And, he's also pushing me to be the guy right now. So it's very mutual always around.
How are you feeling about this receiver room going into fall?
Man, very exciting. If you can tell, I think every receiver probably caught the ball today just because of we have so many weapons, you know what I mean? We have so many people that can get open. We can put them in different places. So, it shows on the field that so many receivers caught the ball today, so many different ones. So, shout out on their part.
Coach McGivern talked about offensive balance being about spreading the ball around 2 players rather than just 50% pass, 50% run. How have you sort of embraced that mindset of getting everybody involved as best you can?
Yeah, I think that's the best way for an offense to roll. Beat what the defense is giving us. If the defense wants us to pass the ball more, we'll do that. If the defense wants us to run the ball, we'll do that. And that's just kind of where our offense comes from. We take advantage of what the defense gives us. And, McGivern trusts me so much with the offense. He gives me the ability to, go get into a different play, get into things that we run very well. So just to have that aspect, it makes me very confident going into any game that we have the game plan to, do what it takes to win.
Speaking of confidence, do you walk a little bit different now that you've been around here? You're kind of feeling good in the red. I mean, just take me through being under center as QB1.
Yeah, I think, one coming back to Utah after, everything that went on and just being so welcoming for one, my coaches meeting me in the airport. Just starting from there, that builds a lot of respect to me and a lot of loyalty. So, yeah, I do see my teammates looking at me when things get bad and also when things are well. So I prefer to stay at the top of my levels, make sure I'm the same guy, very consistent every single time. And, that's just how I embrace my role.
Thanks, Devin.
If it is possible for that young man to play better this year than he did a year ago, man, that would be something else because he had just a special season. Completed about 64% of his passes, nearly 2,500 yards, 24 touchdowns, 5 picks. Led the Big 12 in quarterback QBR a year ago with a rating of 146.8. Had 146 carries, 835 yards, 10 rushing touchdowns. Only 4 quarterbacks in the country had those numbers, and Devin's the only quarterback in the Big 12 that had those numbers. Porter, let me bring you in here as it pertains to this continued conversation about the wide receivers, because I think a lot of people are just under the impression that with Morgan as the head coach instead of Witt and what we saw in the Vegas Bowl, that this is going to be an offense that does feature the vertical, shout out Kyle, throw game, maybe a little bit more. And it's interesting. So Aaron Roderick joined the podcast. You're going to hear from A-Rod tomorrow. Both Utah and BYU are in this interesting situation with dynamic rushing quarterbacks, neither of whom were healthy down the stretch. So there's always this tricky dance where it's like Utah needs Devin healthy. BYU needs Bear Bachmeier healthy, but you can't take away the things about them that make them who they are, if that makes sense. I wonder what you think it's going to look like this year.
Yeah. Just from Kevin McGivern's history as a play caller, I do think that if you just simplify it down to run or pass, you're going to see more in the pass than you may have for Utah historically. How that sets up is there's kind of a misnomer there where, you have 55-45 pass. Well, that may just mean you're losing football games, right? So you're throwing the ball a lot. You're trying to stop the clock. So part of that part of the equation is just, are you winning? Because if you're rolling, you're going to run the football a lot. You're going to run the clock a lot. There's just no way around that. However, I do think when it just comes down to play calling, Kevin McGivern likes to get the ball in the air. A lot of that, Spence, will be short pass, where your run game is actually through the air, getting Devin Dampier the ball out to Creed Whittemore in the flat, getting it out to Wayshawn Parker on a screen. I do think that a lot of the pass game will be in that short range. If you watch McGivern throughout his career, that is a big part of his play calling. When you talk about the vertical throw game, as you asked in that question, I think that is a little bit more of a question mark. You've got a few weapons in the wide receiver room that you are optimistic can be deep threats. Pagan, one of them for sure. He's got the size and the speed, and I think is a good target there. But a lot of that is going to depend on, yes, the play calling, but also Devin Dampier. We saw last year a lot of Devin's deep throws, especially up the middle, were those throws where you're like, you're kind of watching it flutter through the air. It almost looks like a punt. And yeah, sometimes a receiver would come down with it, but Devin really struggled with some of those. Part of that equation is that Devin didn't have a plant foot. He was working with not only a sports hernia, but also a ankle that beyond week 3, he really couldn't step into his throws. And once that context became known, you could really see it on film. You could see that he wasn't stepping into a lot of those balls. The deep balls were, left some things wanted. And I do think that we'll see an improved Devin Dampier throwing down the field and getting to those deep progressions. But again, a lot of that has to do with Kevin McGivern's play calling. And if you're winning, you're not going to be chucking the ball down the field if you're 6-0 and winning. That's also a part of it where there's a lot of Utah fans for years and years. Let's throw the ball, because it's a little more exciting. But you're winning a Pac-12 championship by running the ball down everyone's throat. So that's part of it as well. How good are you, and how much do you want to see the pass over how much you just want to be winning?
Devin was the Big 12 Offensive Newcomer of the Year a year ago. He was all-conference third team as far as the quarterback position goes. It's a conference with a lot of good quarterbacks. It's actually a sport with a ton of good quarterbacks this year, not just in the Big 12, but across the landscape of college football. We'll bring you one more player. Reminder, Coach Mack is going to join us coming up. But before we catch a break, here is Utah's, I would say, RB1, Wayshawn Parker.
Wayshawn, how's it been getting to know this offensive line and kind of running behind them?
I mean, I had some last year, so being able to build that connection more is like a lot. But the people that just came in, I feel comfortable. I feel comfortable behind them. Our connections is there.
How similar is this offense to the one you were running last year?
It's kind of similar. I mean, McGivern got his own things and Beck have his own things. I just love being on offense. So.
Wayshawn, you said last year you wanted to be a 1,000-yard rusher. Is that kind of the benchmark again this year?
Yeah, I'm going to just raise it a little bit, like 1,200, have my higher standards, just put every weight on me and just try to accomplish what I got.
Wayshawn, it's been talked that they want to include you more in the passing game as well. Do you have like a goal in that regard, or how do you want to factor in that?
I mean, I just want to factor in any type of way. I want to be there so the offense can be able to score. I'm a team player. I'm not just by myself. I mean, of course, I have my own self-goals, but that helps me in the long run.
Wait, Sean, with your off-season workouts, what was kind of the goal behind what you were doing in the weight room and working out? Were you trying to put on more mass to handle a bigger workload? Just what was your approach to it?
Yes, totally. Losing that weight, just losing the fat, not the muscle. So I try to lean up. Off-season became serious for me. I sat there, worked out after like everybody even left. So it's dedication for me.
How have you seen Daniel and LaMarcus, maybe grow from spring to now?
He's grown a lot. Sitting there having just conversations with him about offense, he just more advanced and have more IQ than what he had in the spring. And it really shows a lot. I can't wait to see him on the field.
I'd be curious your thoughts on freshman LaMarcus Bell and just how impressive he's been so far.
Oh, shoot. He's being very impressive. He just reminds me of me when I was a freshman. Just like he has mental mistakes that he has, but he will ask me and I will be there for him just because I've been in his shoes before.
Sean, how's day one? Is it like shaking off rust, kind of?
Yeah, I mean, we back into business, but it's good. I'm glad to be back, and I can't wait to season start.
What kind of extra confidence is there now that you've been a part of this? I know different coaching staff, but just how are you feeling when it comes to almost being this guy who's been around for a sec?
I mean, it feels great to be able to be a leader and have people look up to me. It's a great thing. I want people to follow me because I want them to have a great footsteps behind me and show them what I can do.
Wayshawn had a really good year last year. The only thing that's going to get in the way of a 1,000-yard season is the number of carries. 149 carries. He averaged 6.6 yards per, which is nuts. 981 yards, 6 rushing touchdowns. He had 3 receiving touchdowns and finished the season. 4 of his 4 100-yard games came consecutively. Colorado, Cincinnati, Baylor, and Kansas State. And then had 95 against Kansas, 50 in the bowl game. So Utah's RB1, Wayshawn Parker, some sound on the program today. I want to let you know that this year's drought makes your choice of lawn care more important than ever. IFA can help you with your playbook. Soil surfactants, I don't know what those are, but you should get them on your lawn. They play a key role in helping your lawn make the most of every drop of water. As soils become compacted or water repellent, irrigation can be wasted through runoff or uneven absorption. Surfactants solve this by helping water spread more evenly and penetrate deeper into the soil. To find out more, stop by your local IFA or visit them at ifa.coop online. All right, we'll catch a break. The legend Ronnie Mack live in studio coming up next on ESPN 700. Fall camp has begun up on the hill. It is the first iteration of what we're calling Coach Scally Camp as opposed to Camp Kyle. It's Camp Scally now. It's only been 4 coaches that have run fall camp up at Utah in a number of different years, like 4 decades. And the man who I always say laid the foundation is live in studio with us, Ron McBride. Coach Mac, how are you, sir?
Good, Spencer. How are you?
I'm well. It's so good to see you. I'm sure our listeners would love to just hear how you're doing. What's the update with you?
Well, I'm just, working on, my foundation stuff right now. So we're just kind of going through the last couple events we have. And we have a head and heart thing going on with in concert out at the
it's at the Sandy Amphitheater, yeah.
Sandy Amphitheater, and so that's our next event. And then we have our teacher appreciation 2 days later, where we give away close to $500,000 to schools.
That's great.
And then we have a golf tournament we do on this guy's private golf course on his land up in Heber, and the winners of that tournament, then they go down and play Clint Eastwood's course in Monterey, and Rick Lindsay flies them down there, private jet, and they play on the golf course, and he flies them back. Yeah,
Sounds like a good deal.
Yeah, well, it is a good deal.
So the Head and Heart, you didn't know this, but the Head and Heart is actually one of my favorite bands, and you guys were good enough to give me some tickets, so I cannot wait for the show. So it's the Ron McBride Foundation. It's going to sponsor its 3rd annual benefit concert. It's coming up on August the 22nd at the Sandy Amphitheater, one of my favorite venues in the state. So the band is the Head and the Heart. They're really, really good. Tickets are on sale now at ronmcbridefoundation.org. You can click VIP Ultra tickets for VIP or general admission tickets. The VIP tickets are limited, and general admission won't last long. This is a really good band.
Yeah, they're excellent. And we're getting them kind of they've been touring,
Yeah.
And so we're getting them kind of on the tail end on their way back. They're from Seattle, so they're kind of on their way back, and they're doing ours kind of on the last part of this deal.
Yeah, I think it's great. And the Sandy Amphitheater is a lovely little concert venue.
Well, everybody that has gone there says this is the best place ever to watch a concert.
Yeah, so I would encourage everybody to head out. So, again, go to ronmcbridefoundation.org for ticket information and come join us. You were good enough to give me some seats, so I'll be out there on August the 22nd at the Sandy Amphitheater. Coach, I want you to know that when I had Morgan on the show,
right,
after the news came down that it was time for him to take over, I asked him simply, I said, what does Ron McBride mean to you? And he started crying. He had a hard time even answering the question.
Yeah, well, so I had watched him all through his high school career.
Yeah.
And so it kind of, I really made decision on scholarship off his rugby play.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he not only was he a great athlete in high school football-wise, but he was even a better rugby player. So I got a chance to go out and watch him play rugby, and that's when I made my final decision. I said, hey, yeah, we're going to run off this guy. And he wanted to be a running back in college, and we had 2 really good running backs already in place. So he was, that time, would have been our third guy. But he was the guy we needed to get on the field because he could do so many things well. And so Bill Bush was the safety coach at that time. And so I said, hey, Billy, I'm going to send Morgan over with you. I said, he wants to be a running back, but take a look and see if he fits in the secondary. And so he was over there one day with Bill, and Bill came in the next morning, and he said, this is our guy. He'll start at safety for us. And Morgan was a little reluctant, but he was going to get on the field and be able to play all of snaps.
Yeah.
and he played every snap from that day on at safety.
Yeah.
And a really good player, and very smart guy, and I think his ideal job has always been the University of Utah from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Because his dad was a running back at Utah, and he kind of wanted to follow in his footsteps, and Utah is his school.
Yeah.
So he had a lot of reasons to be at Utah. And then he's had opportunities to leave, but he stayed. He stayed through, they had a couple, I think the first defensive coordinator that Kyle had after he was there maybe was John Pease. And then so Morgan was still learning a little bit, from John, experience-wise. And then when John kind of retired or semi-retired, then Morgan became the defensive coordinator.
Yeah. What did you? It's always interesting to talk to coaches who coached players that turned into coaches. Did you identify him early on as somebody that maybe could do this?
Yeah, well, I knew he was going to be a coach because that's kind of what, and I knew he was going to be a coach. I knew Jay Hill was going to be a coach. I knew Derek Odom was going to be a coach. So a lot of these guys, you kind of know where they fit.
Yeah.
And then are they willing to put in the time so they can get to the next stage? And that's the key, is when you go from an assistant to being a coordinator to being the head coach. It's you got to be a little patient, and you got to be respected, and you got to have success.
What are the challenges of doing this job for the first time, even though he's been a coordinator for so long? What are the new challenges here?
Well, first of all, dealing with the administration is a big thing. Dealing with all the people that are working for you that other than the coaches.
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of people in the building now, and you're supervising all those people. And then plus you're supervising the academics, and and then you got to worry about boosters, you got to worry about parents, so everything comes back to the head guy. So no matter what it is, anything that's bad is always going to end up on the head coach's desk.
Yeah, fair or not, that's part of the job, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's it. The buck stops, at the head coach's office.
Yeah.
No matter who has the problem, whether it's a player or assistant coach or somebody in the building. So the head coach is responsible for all those people. The grounds people is responsible for those people. So, you got there's a lot of cards on the table.
Yeah.
And he's really organized and compartmentalized, and then it's up to the AD to take some of that stuff off his plate, and I think Mark is a good sounding board, good experience, so I think that'll be, and Morgan was Mark's choice, even though they had an argument, but that was his choice. So I think that all works good because Mark wants him to be successful, so he'll give him all the help that they need. But with this money thing, who knows? Because I talked to a guy at Wisconsin that gives them a lot of money yesterday, Michigan people, Indiana people, I said, well, like for instance, with Wisconsin, they've lost a lot of their money people.
Oh.
They've all kind of aged out, basically.
Oh, okay.
And so they're looking for new money, and a lot of the new money hasn't responded. Like they just had a big deal with the head coach and the boosters, right? And it didn't go so well, and it just, I said, well, where's your money coming from? Well, the older people have kind of aged out.
Yeah.
And the younger people haven't bought in to this coach. And for them to fire this particular coach, it cost them a lot of money.
Yeah.
So, and he's a good guy, but he just, he needs to push a couple of right buttons.
Yeah. Got to win games.
Well, that's the bottom line.
Right. And what's interesting, and Coach McBride is with us. The Ron McBride Foundation is going to sponsor its third annual benefit concert on August the 22nd at Sandy Amphitheater. It's the Head and the Heart. I'll be there. They were good enough to give me some seats, so come join us. Head to ronmcbridefoundation.org right now for ticket information. One of the things that Morgan says every time he's interviewed, he talks about culture, he talks about talent, he talks about it, but then he says, but I've got to win football games.
Yeah, well, he knows.
He
knows the job.
Yeah.
And Kyle had so much success that he's following a very successful coach.
It's always tough.
Yeah. So 10 wins is expected, and anything under that will not satisfy the boosters, But I think right now, you're looking at the league, I would put Utah in the top 4.
Yeah.
And say, okay, and it just depends on a couple of games.
Right.
And the BYU game will be huge because BYU is very good. Arizona game will be huge because I talked to some of the Arizona people actually last night, and I didn't think that they would be particularly good. And yet this guy played at Arizona, he played for me, and he said, no, they're really good. I've been at spring. He said they got the quarterback back. They've solved some issues they had, and he said I think they're a very good team.
Yeah.
And I said, so I didn't expect a lot out of Arizona, but having the quarterback back was huge. I think they got good receivers. They're still running, I think, the ABC defense, which is, if you don't know how it works, it's a little hard to pick up.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've got experience against it, it's relatively easy to pick up.
Okay. Can I ask you about, because I interviewed Aaron Roderick earlier, and we were talking about, he articulated it really well, because we were talking about the cross-pollination of coaches and how everybody kind of knows everybody. This defensive system that seemed to start with Big Fred, and we've got Kyle, we've got Morgan, we have Kalani, we have Jay, now we have Colton Swan.
Right.
Can you give us the background to this and help us understand it a little bit?
Yeah, sure. Okay, who do you want to start with?
Let's start with Big Fred, who apparently is the guy that...
Well, Fred, Fred was what we needed at the time,
Mm-hmm.
because we needed a tough, non-relenting type coach, and Fred was a technique coach. He was a gap responsible guy, everybody doing the right thing at the right time, and very dogmatic about what he wanted and how he wanted it. And so he was a technician, and he was a good teacher of the game, okay? And at the same time I hired Fred, I hired Kyle. And Kyle was obviously going to be the next coordinator in line. And I had Gary at the same time. And Gary, at that time was obviously he was going to be kind of go on his own because he had, a lot of respect in the profession. So he went up to Utah State, had a lot of success, hired at Wisconsin, then went to Oregon State, and came back to Utah. Now he's at BYU. So it's all kind of, it's all kind of crazy. Then we had some internal issues with that when Fred was the coordinator, and so we let some guys go and we hired some new guys, and so then we went from there because it was just Fred had gone to the Raiders, and then came back.
Yeah.
And I think when he came, because when I talked to the Raider people, they said, well, he's pretty disgusted here or not happy.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And they said, so I don't know whether he's in the right frame of mind to do what you need him to do, but I like what Fred brought on the field.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and then that kind of went south, and then we hired the next guy.
Yeah, yeah. Have you seen this defense that Kyle himself credits his father with, and then Morgan credits Kyle with, and Kalani have you and Jay, have you seen it change over the years, or is it okay? Okay.
So in looking at things, they've added a lot.
Okay.
Because it was kind of what you call a under-over type defense, a shade defense, a gap-conscious defense. They got a lot more movement now than what they've had before.
Mm-hmm.
A lot different responsibilities by the linebackers, spitting gaps and stuff. So yeah, it's changed. And I looked at when Jay was down at BYU, that like they had changed dramatically with some things, and for the positive, just drill stuff, slant technique, read technique, freedom technique, and I was really impressed with what Jay did down there and what Gary helped him do.
Yeah.
Because Gary kind of oversaw everything.
Right.
On the defensive side particularly. But Jay is really smart. He's a very smart guy. Now, he's gonna go leaps and bounds at Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say, he'll be the next head coach
At Michigan.
Wherever.
Okay.
Because I think he'll have his choice, because I think the Michigan team is a little bit being undersold a little bit, because I think they're very much a contender, from what I can hear from the assistant coaches of what they say about the players. And then all the kids that transferred from Utah to Michigan have added to what they're doing. Every guy is a player. Every guy fits. And they recruited some guys too, some very good players. So I think they're kind of the sleeper, and I don't think they're a sleeper, but I think they're nationally could be in the top 4.
Colton Swan also worked for you.
Yeah, Colton Swan was my defensive coordinator at Weber.
What should we know about him now that he's taken over?
Well, another guy that he learned through the system. He was completely prepared to be the coordinator because he learned a lot from Morgan. He learned a lot on the run, kind of at Weber, and of course we that program went from being a last place team, and we went all the way up and won the league, and we were in the top 3, I think, for 5 of the last 7 years.
Yeah.
And Colton had a lot to do with it. So Colton will be from looking at them in spring, a lot of movement, a lot of slants, a lot of fits for linebackers. And so the linebackers are not as free probably in this defense.
Okay.
To roam or be themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a little more based on, you slant, you at that gap, you fit that gap, and then play from there.
Yeah.
So in some cases, maybe one of your Mike guy might not be your top tackler on
Sure,
the team.
sure.
Because now he's a little more confined in his role.
We'll catch a break. Porter's an offensive guy, so like this defensive segment's for me. I know you're chomping at the bit to get to some offense, so we'll catch a break and do it with Coach Matt coming up. I want to let you know that the legend Ron McBride is live in the studio, and the Ron McBride Foundation will sponsor its third annual benefit concert on August the 22nd at Sandy Amphitheater. It's the Head and the Heart. They are awesome live if you've never seen them. Doors are going to open at 6 o'clock. We got some opening performances, which will be fun. For information, go to ronmcbridefoundation.org and come join us coming up on August the 22nd at the Sandy Amphitheater. Also, you can help Utah kids start school with confidence. Over 200 kids at the road home need your help with back-to-school clothes, shoes, and backpacks and more. ESPN 700 invites you to be a child's advocate. Visit ESPN700sports.com or appletreeforkids.com for more information and to donate now. We'll catch a break. More with Coach Matt coming up on ESPN 700. You know, if you're a football coach, or apparently if you're an athletic director, at some point in your career, you probably worked with or for Ron McBride, the legendary Utah football coach, who I always like to say built the foundation, was the head coach of Utah football when I was causing havoc on campus. So it's always great to have Coach McBride in studio. I want to let you know that coming up, if you've never seen the Head and the Heart live, take advantage of this opportunity. It's coming up on August the 22nd at Sandy Amphitheater. It's in support of the Ron McBride Foundation. Go to ronmcbridefoundation.org, and then you can find ticket information. I want to let you know that the proceeds from this concert benefit the RMF's after-school programs for at-risk kids in Title I schools, and currently the foundation funds 41 after-school programs in 7 school districts. So, Coach Mack, it's pretty amazing what you guys continue to do.
Well, you know, this was about 11 years ago. Lavelle and I started this together. And then, obviously, you know, Lavelle passed, you know, and then we kind of had to reorganize what we were doing.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it all started there, and we built. Originally, we built a library at one school, and then we built a book club at another school.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing, the principal at West Jordan Middle, she just got a new job working for the University of Utah.
Oh.
Basically doing the same thing that we do.
Great.
And so she's now responsible for Prop 1 schools and education through the University of Utah Education Department.
Mm-hmm.
So Dixie Garrison. And so it's pretty interesting because she called me. She said, I'm with you now. I said, what are you doing? And she says, well, you know, I'm this representative from the University of Utah in education for the underserved.
That's great.
So, yeah.
Obviously a cause that's close to your heart, right? I mean, that's why you're choosing to help benefit them.
Yeah, and obviously because of the kids I've recruited in the past.
Sure.
You know, and I took a lot of what they call red kids. We always had like 10% what I call red kids, which were kids that were underserved, had problems in high school, you know, needed a chance, and you put that group of kids with what I call the yellow and the green, you know, then eventually if you can keep them for 2 years, you know, those kids all turn.
Mm-hmm.
So usually lose that group in the first year. If they, but once they're kind of around these other people that are achieving,
yeah,
they kind of see, well, this is a better avenue for me.
I wonder, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I wonder if you think back to that time when you were intentional to give these kids the chances you gave them. Are there a couple of success stories that stand out to you?
Oh, yeah. Sape was huge. The Kiamatu boys were huge.
Yeah.
The Malafala group was huge. You know, it was many. Ed Tamu was huge. You know, and mostly kids, you know, ethnically it was Polynesian kids, kids of, you know, the black kids that came from different neighborhoods of problems, and some of the white kids in the state of Utah. So we took some chances, and the kids have all done extremely well.
I mean, that's such a huge piece of who you are and your legacy. I actually recently went back and listened to the last interview I did with Frank. Frank Layden, and he discussed all of his jazz players, and we had Thurl in studio not long ago as kind of, and look, Frank has sons of his own, but he kind of said, I feel like I'm their father, this father figure, and all of his players would say the same thing. I feel it's very similar to your experience.
Well, you know, Frank supported everything in my foundation for the last 10 years.
Sure, yeah.
And the last, I would say, 4 or 5 years, he really struggled. But I tell you what, he always showed up.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, always showed up, and always was at his best. And Smitty would bring him and take him, and it was, and then so Vicky, my wife, and Barbara were best friends.
Mm-hmm.
So they, we used to go out to dinner with them quite a bit.
Yeah.
And did a lot of things with him. But Frank was a giver, not a taker.
Yes.
And same thing with John Ashby, same guy.
Yeah, for sure.
John used to show up at everything.
Yep.
He'd jump over cars. Let me do this. Let me do that.
This is the original Jazz Bear for listeners that don't know. Yeah.
And it just, turn him loose and let him
Yeah.
do his thing.
Yeah.
And his body was so broken up from all his injuries from what he was doing, and then obviously Lavelle and Patty were huge.
Yeah.
So we lost 3 really great people.
Yeah.
In a short period of time.
Yeah, Jerry too, right? And Big Mark. It's interesting as you kind of exist in the culture and the ecosystem. The longer you do, the more people you got to say goodbye to. Yeah.
And Jerry was a lot like Fred Whittingham, personality.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I can remember Thurl and I went out and visited Jerry a couple of times when he was in the home out there.
Yeah.
And he always tried to escape.
Oh, did he really?
Oh, always. Yeah. Yeah. He'd say, okay, I gotta go for my walk, and he'd be by the door, and then the lady would catch him and say, no, Jerry, we're gonna have dinner pretty soon, so you need to stick around. But
That's hilarious.
He was looking for an escape cloud.
Yeah. One of the things I wanted to ask you about, because I've heard, I think, at least 4 or 5 people talk about Morgan and Kalani in a way that feels like you and Lavelle. And one of the coolest things that I had the opportunity of doing is doing a few shows with you and Lavelle at the other station. And I can remember how gentle you were with him.
Oh, well, he was, everybody told me when I came to Utah that, you got to hate the BYU.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think it was 1978 I met Lavelle the first time at a weightlifting contest at Jordan High School. And everybody said, well, you're going to go there where the BYU guy runs the whole state and all that stuff. So I'm sitting there, and we get into just about an hour and a half conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Never talked about football.
Oh, wow.
Talked
Okay.
more about life and stuff. And I came back, and I told these guys the next day, I said, now, this guy at BYU is a good guy.
Yeah.
I said, and he's a fun guy, and he's not cocky, and he's not like he's the second coming of the football coach. He's just a good human being.
He's a good man, yeah.
And he really, to me, he represented BYU better than anybody could, because he lived the religion, he lived the philosophy, he believed in it, and he stayed with it.
Yeah.
From his whole career there.
Yeah. I just recall there were moments where Lavelle would get a little cloudy, and you would just gently help him remember what he was trying to say on the radio. I thought it was just such a sweet thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You had a lot of fun, too. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
He was a funny guy.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always told him, the further he got away from the point of the mountain, the funnier he got.
I can remember at one point I had asked you, were these guys nice to you when you're the head coach of Utah? And you said they were until we started to beat them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I can still remember when we beat them down there the first time on their blanket day. And so when we came into the stadium, they were all happy to see me.
Sure.
Oh, you're doing better, and your team's better, and they were
kind of pat on the head.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hey, you need anything? You park your car over here.
Mm-hmm.
So then the game's over. We went. That they would have towed my car away. And you guys need to get out of this locker room. You know, I'm thinking, what happened to you nice people?
Yeah, I'll never forget that when you said they were nice to me until we started to beat them. Do you see any of you and Lavelle in Morgan and Kalani? Does that resonate with you?
Well, I think Morgan and Kalani were good friends because they worked together at one time.
Yep.
And Kalani's another guy that's hard to dislike.
Sure.
You'd have to really, you'd have to make something up.
Right.
You know, because he's just who he is. You know, he's a good guy. The players love him. He's a football guy. You know, he had good assistant coaches, and he's done a really good job.
Absolutely.
And so he's a good man. You know?
Yeah.
So and he also, you know, he lives the part. You know, the very loyal to the church, and so you just have a hard time ever saying that. Well, yeah, that guy's this or that.
Yeah.
You'd have to make it up.
Right.
You know. So, and I love his father, and like his family. You know, he's just a good dude. And they got a bunch of Utah guys coaching down there.
Yeah, for sure. And they've got a good team. I mean, I've always felt like the hatred and venom mostly is in the stands.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
You know, because there was 21 years where Utah never beat them.
Right.
You know.
Oh yeah.
And they always rubbed it in, you know, and it was very antagonistic, whatever, but it was hard to take because they come into your stadium, beat you in your stadium, and then they all stick around and yell BYU.
Right, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's and obviously to survive in the state of Utah, if you're from the university, you're going to have to beat them.
Yeah.
Because that's at that time they were the mark.
Yeah.
And they had good players, and you got to respect the players they had because they were good. They knew how to play the game. They were tough. They were well coached.
Yeah.
So give them credit.
Yeah, I've always said I feel like Kalani can coach down there as long as he wants to. And then I heard a rumor that Penn State would be interested. And I went, okay, well, that's a job you have to look at, right?
Yeah.
But he ended up staying.
Well, it ended up being good for Kalani.
Sure.
Because Penn State went after him pretty hard. And so it was the BYU had to step up or step down. And they stepped up.
Yeah, they did.
So they had to make a choice. You want to keep this guy or you want to let him go?
Yeah.
And they want to keep him. So everybody, they all got together, with their money people, and they said, hey, yeah, this is our coach.
Yeah.
We want to keep him here.
Yeah, I feel like there's a little bit of a fear that permeates through Ute fans because, and look, when it became clear that schools were going to be in a position to pay their players and players were going to be in a position to profit off their name, image, and likeness, I felt like this was a really good sign for BYU because they understand finances, they understand the power of the purse, they have a lot of very wealthy boosters and donors that believe if they donate money to the athletic department, they're helping their religion. I mean, that's a big ace in the hole.
That is a fact.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the one key to that is usually the players at BYU generally are going to stay there because of the religion.
Right.
And so you're not going to necessarily be able to buy a player from BYU.
Yeah.
Because they're basically not for sale.
Mm-hmm.
Because I asked a question down there after I watched the quarterback in spring. I said, you're not going to be able to keep this guy here. I said, it's too good. I said, he's going to go out early. And their response was, no, he's not. I said, well, what makes you think that? Because his mom is academic. And her philosophy is the boys all have to graduate from college.
Okay.
Before they do anything else.
Okay.
And so he will stay at BYU until he graduates. And whether that's a fact or reality, but I got that from a source because I said, this kid's he'll have a great year next year, and then he can go
to the pros.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I said no, he won't.
That's interesting.
And I said, is it money? Well, it's not money; it's education. Because it's from what I understand about his mother, it's mandatory that her boys graduate from college.
Interesting. Because the other thing they're starting to do down there, and your point about the religion is well taken, they're getting non-LDS kids.
Absolutely.
A.J. DeBonson, number one pick in the NBA draft. Bears not LDS.
Well,
they're actually starting to get some non-LDS players too.
Here's the first thing, the funny thing. So I'm watching them play basketball, and it's the first time I've seen, all ethnically different.
Yes.
Different looking.
Their
guys.
entire starting five was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at them saying, where'd these guys come from?
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
But they were all, and of course the player, the number one run draft choice was a big time get for him.
Yeah. Yeah. I know you'd like to stay into the football lane, but I would be curious to know whether or not you feel like Morgan is getting the support from the money people he needs to get.
Well, this whatever you call it, the new money,
The private equity deal.
Private equity.
Otro Capital, yeah.
Yeah. So this is huge.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, I'm not sure how it all works, but somebody else has control.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, it changes the dynamics of how you're doing things, and so the problem you have, and other schools have the same problems, is okay. You got to generate young money.
Yep.
Because Utah's money there's been the same families that have supported Utah for years and have been loyal from day one, and their names are on all the buildings up there, and they're the same people that have supported our foundation, and they've built everything in the state. Basically.
Right, yeah.
And it's hard to ever replace those families because they've given so much for so long. And for instance, the stadium wouldn't be where it is today without Eccles. It goes on and on and on and on. Kim Gardner's big in basketball, and these are all great families.
Sure.
And Utah's a passion for them. And so now the idea is, okay, where do you find the young money that's gonna help perpetuate you into the future?
Yeah. I do want to talk offense here because I do want to know what you believe Kevin McGivern will bring to the table, because Jason just did such an unbelievable job last year.
So McGivern and Jason both worked for me.
Right.
So Jason at the time he worked for me was really quiet. This was his first job, right? So he didn't really say a lot, but he was very smart. And then McGivern was kind of a proven commodity because McGivern was really a good coordinator up at Weber. I mean, he was the difference maker. And but both guys very good. McGivern is a little more pass orientated than maybe what Jason was. And Jason kind of what you saw last year at Utah was really kind of what the quarterback brought and the system.
Yeah.
Okay. So the system has stayed similar, but there's been some changes, in the passing game, some changes with using both quarterbacks on the field at the same time.
At the same time?
At the same time.
Oh, cool.
So there'll be packages where you'll see the left-hander and the starter on the same backfield, doing different things, creative things. The left-handed guy brings you a lot.
Yeah.
Because he's so fast.
Right.
And they have a ton of speed on offense. And the one thing they've been light on for years has been a really good wide receiver room.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now they brought the number one receiver from San Jose, number one receiver from Utah State, number one receiver from Mississippi State. Okay, to add to the group
Yeah.
that they already have.
Yeah.
So they brought 3 really good, proven receivers, from other schools, and the receiver room is very strong. And so I think that if you talk about the most improved area, would probably be just in the receiver group and the speed group.
Yeah.
Because they got good running. They got very good running backs. They got 3 good running backs, maybe 4. They got a third quarterback coming in to be a future guy.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks like the third guy will be somebody that's been in the system. But the number 4 guy is, I think, a guy from Texas. And I think he'll be the eventual replacement for the other 2 guys.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So I like the offensive line, and I think that Jordan Gross's kid he brought with him from Idaho, special player. I mean, when you see him, you got big hands, long arms, tall, lean, not fat, 310 probably.
Oof.
But just a good. And then the Garcia kid has been healthy through spring, and so we'll see him for the first time being healthy at Utah. Looks like Junior might be the starting center at this time. He's been in the program. This will be his 4th year in the program. And then the right tackle is a nice player. I like him.
Good.
I think they have 6 guys and that could play right now.
Good.
So I think that group is pretty solid, and having Jordan and Alex there. So you got Alex, who's a really good fundamentalist, good with the kids, and then Jordan is a great teacher. So you've got and then the guy who's coaching like their inside tight end type guys is the kid Wells' brother that was the head coach up at Utah State.
Matt's brother. Yeah.
Yeah. his
Okay.
brother.
Okay.
Okay. And I think he's a really good coach. And then they brought Bumpus back from Mississippi State,
Mm-hmm.
very good coach. I love the running back guy. I think the running back guy's invaluable.
Yeah.
Because he's a personality guy.
Right. Yeah.
I just call him Chucky. But he's a personality guy.
Yeah.
So he's the one guy you can always hear in practice.
Sure.
But he doesn't give the running backs any leeway.
Mm-hmm.
He's very hard on them, which is good, because a lot of times if those tailbacks are really good, they want to be pampered.
Okay. Yeah.
But he doesn't pamper.
Yeah.
He's on them from day one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's a great coach. And so I think that the one concern I would have is just in the defensive front.
Yeah. A lot of questions there, right?
Yeah, but I do like what they can put together offensively, because they should score a lot of points, because they have the number 1 guy is a proven guy, good receivers, solid offensive line, good running backs. So I don't really see a weakness.
I love hearing that.
Yeah.
Hey, before I say you loose, I want you to answer the question that everyone asks me, but you're the guy for this. And you referenced earlier, 10 wins is like the expectation now.
Right.
I think if they win 10 games, if they get 10 wins, year 1 under Morgan, that is a massive, massive win.
Well, I think so. I
Yeah.
think it's huge. But I looked at the schedule, and there are 10 games on that schedule that they should I would think that they should be in position to win.
Yeah.
And the big question marks will be Arkansas, obviously, BYU. I think, and playing BYU here, I would expect them to beat them.
Yeah.
And in the league, okay, what is Texas Tech going to have? What has he done? So I don't know who they brought in. They paid their money to.
Yeah.
And then Arizona State, I think, will take a backward step. Not sure what Arizona has. Not sure what Iowa State has. Kansas State fired a lot of their guys, at the end of last season. So there's some question marks there. Iowa State will be solid. It just depends where you play them.
Mm-hmm.
If you play them here, I think they're very beatable. If you play them there, a little tougher.
Yeah.
So it just depends, away and home. And then obviously they have Utah State on the schedule here. And Utah State will be a surprisingly tough for them because Bronco will have them ready to play.
Sure. Well, look, thank you so much for your time. You sure you don't want to do this for 4 hours with me every day? I do need a co-host.
Well, if you pay everything to the foundation, yeah, I do it.
There's the deal. Coach McBride here today with the Ron McBride Foundation. I want to let you know it's going to sponsor its third annual benefit concert on August the 22nd at Sandy Amphitheater. It's the Head and the Heart. They're an awesome live band if you've never seen them before. So check out the website, which is ronmcbridefoundation.org. It's ronmcbridefoundation.org. This is August 22nd. Doors open at 6 p.m. And most importantly, proceeds from the concert benefit the RMF's after-school program for at-risk kids in Title I schools. And currently, the foundation funds 41 after-school programs in 7 school districts. So we need your support at ronmcbridefoundation.org. Coach, great to see you.
Thank you, Spencer.
Okay,
Appreciate
we'll catch a break. Brian Dunseth, Bill Riley, that's your 4 o'clock hour. Keep it here on ESPN 700.
Thank you.
Day 2 of Utah football fall camp rolls on up on the hill. A lot of sound today from players and coaches. ESPN700sports.com is where you go as college football, for all intents and purposes, is here. We're about 4 weeks away from game day, 29 days specifically for the Utes. And, of course, as your home of Utah football, keep it here all day with Sean and then this show for your best coverage of the Utes. But it is game day for RSL tonight. The Leagues Cup is here. Tigres in town. It's an 8 o'clock kick at America First Field. So we'll take a break from football. We'll talk a little soccer. And my guy Brian Dunseth on a Tuesday is our guest. What's up, dude? How are you?
I'm good, man. Heading down to the stadium and looking excited to kick off Leagues Cup. I know a lot of people have their own kind of hesitancies about this type of break when MLS takes on Liga MX's teams. But for me, man, there's a chance to not only create these organic rivalries, but maybe more importantly for Real Salt Lake to put on a show and maybe convince those that aren't RSL fans to fall in love with the style that RSL is presenting.
Certainly want to dig into this tournament and want you to help us understand kind of the dichotomy between these two leagues that certainly share a border. But before we get there, let's not bury the lead. As Tommy Bogert is reporting that Crystal Palace has made a very aggressive offer for Xavier Gozo in the neighborhood of $15 million. Now, ultimately, we had Steve Starks on the program a couple of weeks ago, and Steve spoke in a way where he thought they would be additive to the group and not look to move some players on. Now, as you and I have talked about over the years, I will never be like fully comfortable with this deal where you grab a great young talent, develop that great young talent, then move him on for a price. But I understand the soccer ecosystem is what it is. How do you think this plays out, Dunny?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's pretty close. It sounds like this is something that could be done within a week's time. And Xavier Gozo could have the opportunity to join Chris Richards, the American center back over at Crystal Palace. You know, this is a different conversation, and I know Aston Villa was sniffing around. I'd heard a couple other names that had been sniffing around Gozo's potential. But once you get to this price point, this is something a little bit different. And, you know, by burying the lead, we should also acknowledge that, you know, when you think about David Blitzer, part of his ownership group and investment isn't just Real Salt Lake. It is also Crystal Palace. We had seen Blitzer's involvement with Ricardo Pepe heading over to the Bundesliga years ago, getting that deal done from FC Dallas. But this one's a little bit different, man. This isn't like $7 million to Middlesbrough. You know, this is potentially 15 plus add-ons to the Premier League. So a different kettle of fish, a different conversation. Crystal Palace with European football. I think this would be a brilliant move for Gozo because there is a system in place. And when you think about Michael Elise, you think about Ebereza Eze, they have a track record of developing young, dynamic wingers, which Gozo absolutely is. So I guess those are all the positives. This young man, the sky's the limit. I'm not sure what his ceiling is. I think it's incredibly high. Physically, from a player profile standpoint, he checks virtually every box that you could possibly want. And in terms of a maturity level, listen, it's going to be a huge challenge for him to go out by himself and live on his own and live underneath the pressure that is Premier League performance every day, because that type of pressure is significantly different than what he's dealing with currently right now at Real Salt Lake. But these are his ambitions, and he made it clear earlier before the World Cup roster was named that this was something that he wanted to be a part of. And these are the type of numbers that are much bigger than what we saw from Andres Gomez a couple of years ago to Rennes. So those are all the positives. The negatives, Spence, my hope is that there's been enough planning, and you talked about Steve, and I can understand the Blitzer Group's investments and, you know, their want to have a say in this. But I really hope that Real Salt Lake, if this deal is going to go through, that they are prepared, unlike last time when Andres Gomez was sold to Rennes and the season fell apart when he and Chicho were split up.
Yeah, that's an excellent point because it changed the entire dynamic of that whole season. And for RSL fans that may have forgotten, that was a really good, really fun, exciting team that was scoring a ton of goals. But help us understand a little bit, as somebody who played overseas and played with players that moved overseas and played domestically as well, what is this dynamic like as far as Gozo wanting to go over there and then the agent involved and then the club? Like, walk us through these layers, because, again, I don't want him to go anywhere. But the club side of things is like this would be a tremendous financial windfall. And then for the player, if he wants to go take his talent overseas, like most of these players do, how much of a say does he have in this whole process?
Yeah, let me take you back. I can remember when Deloy Hansen was the owner, and he was acutely aware of Alphonso Davies being sold from the Vancouver Whitecaps to Bayern Munich. And at the time, the conversation was, how do we do that? How do we recreate that? And the challenge was Craig Weibel and Tony Beltran and everybody behind the scenes to create Salt Lake City's own version of Alphonso Davies. And listen, I've seen Richie Ledesma and the Booth brothers and, David Ochoa and insert name here. But this is the first time that we've kind of seen, and I'm going to use this loosely, kind of an offensive unicorn that is from Salt Lake City, developed in Salt Lake City, succeeded in Salt Lake City, and has been given every opportunity because of the infrastructure at Real Salt Lake to succeed. And I would be remiss if I didn't bring up a really important point. Spence, the reason why Xavier Goso is having this because Real Salt Lake sold Andres Gomez to Rennes, because they missed on Dominic Marchuk. And because Marchuk never attained the level that were the expectations for him to replace Andres Gomez, Xavier Goso got his opportunity. And that moment that Marchuk Gozo's chance, that afforded Gozo, with the belief of the coaching staff, and in particular Pablo Mastroeni, to continue to develop at a rate of speed that all of us were unaware that he was capable of developing. So to your point, with the new ownership, with the transition of power, Miller Sports and Entertainment, Steve Starks, the ownership group, the dynamic of the power adjustment from the Blitzer group, all of these things were, I think, really, really positive. And to your point, no, they don't have to sell him. But it kind of gets to that point where, are you naive in not selling him? And by the way, to your point, this is the reason why this is the last iteration of this regular season in Major League Soccer. And we'll end in December. We'll go into the sprint season, and then we will realign with the international calendar, which will be much less abrasive than it's ever been. One of the other big issues or opportunities in this is that, for everything that's said and done, there still is time, because with this World Cup break, it's not 8 games, it's not 6 games. You're going to have a good amount of games left in this season to counterbalance the potential loss of Gozo. So, again, not ideal. I'm not naive to the situation, but I think this is the time where, if it is structured correctly on Real Salt Lake's terms, then this is a brilliant opportunity to give the young player an opportunity to go and live out his dreams. We're effectively Tuesdays and Wednesday nights, which is Champions League football, which is something that Real Salt Lake can never give this young man. And from an agent standpoint, this is always going to be the priority of the agent. This is the ownership of the agent to go out and get this deal done and make it good enough for Real Salt Lake and good enough for Crystal Palace, for the Herbie Hancocks to dry that ink and make sure this deal gets over the line.
So, one more thing here, then we're going to move on. Between the Gomez story and now potentially the Gozo story, what sort of tools does that put in the tool belt of ownership and front office to go out and try to attract young players to the academy, to kind of let them know, like, look, we see this potential in you, and if you are willing to come play for us, and if you do the things we ask you to do, then your future could look like what we just executed with 2 really good young players.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's huge, because you can, listen, you got Luna for effectively nothing. and he became one of the best attacking players in Major League Soccer over the last 18 months. MLS Young Player of the Year, an MLS two-time MLS All-Star, on the fringe of making the World Cup. And maybe had, the cards fallen in a different direction, Luna's a World Cup player. The first since, I know Juanma Sanabria played for Uruguay, but the first since Nick Raimondo and Kyle Beckerman in 2014 went to the World Cup with the U.S. men's national team. And by the way, if we're going to be transparent and honest, Andres Gomez failed at Rennes, and that's why he's now in Brazil. So it doesn't mean that this deal automatically works out in the favor of the player. There's still an adaptation process that takes place, and Gozo's still going to have to figure out what's expected of him in competing every single day for a position that's 100% not his. That's where Gomez failed in France. So, yeah, I mean, listen, there's still jeopardy in all of this. But in terms of a selling point, right now the selling point in this group is looking at Xavier Goso, is looking at Aiden Herzakani, is looking at Griffin Dillon, is looking at Lucas Moisa, is looking at Zach Booth, who tried his hand in Europe and came back because he needed an opportunity to have a more settled process. All of these things are really important data points because the Bofo Salcedos, the Justin Glads, the Aaron Herreras, there's a pretty, the Brooks Lennons, there's a pretty good time gap in between those players and what we're seeing right now with Xavier Goso.
All right, moving on now. Since the World Cup break ended, we've seen 3 road matches that led to 1 point. Most recently, the point was gained in St. Louis after a unusual mistake from Rafa Cabral. So, really, if you pan back, Dunny, it's 1 road win on the year and 2 losses and 1 draw since you came back from the World Cup break. Any cause for concern? Where are you at with the team, just big picture right now?
Yeah, I mean, the cause for concern is keeping 11 players on the field. Morgan Guilavogui kicking out and getting a red card 30 minutes in on the road in Portland when you're up 1-0. That certainly doesn't help, and you don't expect that from – and again, listen, I've got a red card. I almost cost the United States a spots in the Olympics, so I'm acutely aware of the red mist and how quickly, you can lose your focus and that can come back to haunt you. But then that has a trickle down because on the road in St. Louis, and on top of that, combined with Gozo picking up a little bit of a hip issue at the All-Star game, all of a sudden you're playing a couple men down and you're changing your system. So those are all really basic, data points. But on top of that, you can point to Seattle, who's really struggling. You can point to LAFC and Portland Timbers, who are really flying right now. And that's what we were concerned about with that World Cup break. I'm even more concerned now with Leagues Cup because then these next 3 games could, really upset the rhythm of what Pablo's trying to build and create, a crisis of confidence. So these are all parts of jeopardy that you're thinking of. But right now, my bigger hope is that whoever RSL is looking at in terms of additions right now, that they get that deal done as soon as possible. Because while there's time, there's not a lot of time. And if this deal for Gozo goes through, he was a big part of what they were doing successfully in transition and attacking play. And there's nobody else like Gozo in this roster that could mimic what he's doing, which then leads to maybe a conversation about Saba Lobos-Janitze and the importance of him coming in at the time that he did.
Okay, let's move over now with just we'll start with just kind of a background educational process of the Leagues Cup and what you think ultimately it could turn into, why people should be interested in, this tournament that does start tonight with Tigres, and there's a couple of other home matches over the next week or so before RSL is back to MLS play. Why is this tournament important? What is it to you that's most interesting?
Well, I think first off, it's the challenge of 100 years versus 30-plus years in terms of infrastructure. The challenge is when you talk about Tigres, you talk about Monterrey, you talk about, insert name here, Pumas, you talk about Cruz Azul, you talk about Club America, all of these teams are absolute giants in our region. And every single year, I think MLS kind of chips away at the gap that has been historically between these two teams. And in particular, this tournament, and I'm not naive. I recognize there's a lot that is beneficial for Major League Soccer, having a majority of the tournament here in the United States and watching 3 consecutive versions of this tournament being won by MLS teams. This year, Vancouver has to go down to Tigres. I think Dallas is at Toluca. I think somebody else is at Club America. So they're starting to give games down in Mexico, which obviously when we watch Champions Cup, that's been, really, really important. But I think the challenge is continuing to get these results and changing the narrative. And I think as you continue to watch MLS teams be successful, there's a reason why you're still seeing MLS players go to Liga MX, and now you're seeing Liga MX players come to Major League Soccer. And again, I can understand the cynicism of MLS fans when they look at this and say, what does it really matter? Well, from a growth perspective, it really, really matters, because I think you're giving players opportunity to continue to challenge themselves. And I think it's also important for ownership, collective ownership, to recognize that every single day they need to continue to take the training wheels off. The way that they're building these rosters, and they're building, I think, ultimately what I would say not a salary cap, but a salary budget looks like. And then with Larry Berg winning who is going to be the new MLS commissioner at the end of the season, and he being a really early investor in LAFC. LAFC has really been the roadmap for a lot of teams to try to mimic in building successful rosters in Major League Soccer. So that would be my kind of blueprint to why this tournament is important. But again, it's up to the teams and it's up to the players to go out and execute and to prove my blueprint correct.
Tell us about Tigres. I know nothing about them. I have the standings pulled up, and they're 16th, which is not good. So they're not off to a great start. But what's RSL up against tonight?
Historically, one of the best teams in Mexico. One of the challenges that they're dealing with right now is they have kind of their own Jason Kreis situation, meaning that Guido Pizarro was the captain of Tigres. They fired their head coach, and Guido retired and became their head coach. He walked away earlier last week. The university down in Monterrey owns Tigres. The sponsorship from Cemex isn't what it once was, meaning that there's some financial support that's been adjusting over the last 18 months. Monsieur Gignac, the Frenchman who had come over and been really the focal point of all that was good in the attacking phase of play for Tigres, he's quote-unquote been forced out. Pizarro walks away, and then Angel Correa, who was the player that had come over from Atletico Madrid last year, he's left to go down to Argentina. So there's a big transition moment that's happening. And the start's only 3 games, but you're right. Whether it's losses or draws, they don't seem to have the same power that they once had, which is great news for Real Salt Lake. But still, huge names. When you're talking about front to back, Correaran is the captain. He can hit you out of nowhere. Araujo, who played for Orlando City, he's in the midfield. Yangel Herrera is still up top and always a pain in the butt to deal with. So still a very, very good team, but a team in, I don't know if crisis is the right word, but certainly in transition.
So we're essentially halfway through, not just the calendar, because the World Cup break was a little bit, a bit of a wrinkle, but halfway through as far as games played throughout the course of all MLS teams. One of your preseason predictions that RSL would be a top 4 side in the West. Clearly, they're still kind of in that area, in that cul-de-sac. But if RSL is going to lift a trophy this year, not just maybe make the postseason or not just finish in the top 5, two-part question. What do they need to add prior to the close of the September 2nd date for the secondary window? And of the players that are on the roster, who do they need more from?
would have told you previous to this conversation about Gozo, they would have needed a real number 9. Obviously, Olatunji's not getting the minutes or the opportunities that he feels are worthwhile after his experience in Champions League before he got here. I'm concerned about Sergi Solans. I said this to you two Thursdays ago, that as a young player, that's a lot of pressure to carry that goal-scoring load. So that would have been, first and foremost, a real goal-scoring number 9. Need more from Guy Lavogui. Need a lot more from Guy Lavogui. Luna needs help. Every time I watch him play, he's like one of the few players on the field that you can sense the urgency in his play to get on the ball quicker rather than later. And now for Gozo, man, you need to go out and get an absolute stud if you're going to sell Gozo. And you got to spend some significant money on that position because you're going to be light. Because Booth isn't the same player. Marchup certainly isn't the same player. So that's where they're light. I'm concerned with the lack of athleticism in the defensive midfield role. Paulo Ruiz is going to get a chance because Griffin Dillon broke his 5th metatarsal in St. Louis in the first half. Concerned about Spearings constantly needing a sub, around the 65th, 70th minute mark. And right now, I'm really concerned about this injury with Justin Glad because it feels like Arias is going to get a chance to prove himself, the U22 Colombian, after having that pubic issue. But I don't want to rely on Philip Quinton for the rest of the year. So 9, winger, defensive midfielder, and a stud center back because it's really concerning the amount of time that Justin Glad's been out injured.
You're on the call tonight, yeah, for Apple?
Yeah, Teo Max and I
Nice.
are on the English call. JP Navarro, who was on the Spanish call for the World Cup, and Marcelo Balboa, the U.S. international legend, he of 1990 and 94, 98 range, are on the Spanish call. So we're all heading. They're meeting me. I'm on my way to struggle through this I-15 traffic to get down to the stadium right now.
All right, buddy. Well, I appreciate the time. Have a great call. We'll chat soon. Thanks, Donnie. A mic drop exit from Brian Dunseth. He was done with that interview. Is that what that was? Did he just hang up the phone?
I don't know. Seemed like he was in and out of.
Well, you could just say thanks. Good to talk to you too. Goodbye. You could be respectful.
See ya,
Brian. Hope he has a horrible call tonight. Just kidding. Tigres RSL, 8 o'clock, Apple TV, FS1, Univision as well. Bill Riley, the voice of the Utes, will join us coming up. I want to let you know that our friends at IFA, they've got a team of pro turf and landscape sales consultants that help provide products and services to local football, baseball, and soccer fields at high schools getting ready to go back to school around the state. Plus, IFA works with golf courses, parks, and other city properties throughout Utah. It's the same knowledge and care they can share with you about your yard only at IFA. Find out more online at ifa.coop. We'll catch a break, and Riles will join us coming up next on ESPN 700. We had Brian Dunseth on last segment, so time now to bring in the second half of the Killer Bees. Bill Riley, voice of the Utes. Do you remember, who was it that tried to nickname you and Dunny the Killer Bees when you were calling RSL games? Do you remember this?
Was it you?
No. My nicknames are cool, Bill. That was a corny nickname. I don't remember. I just don't remember who it was. Do you not remember this?
I remember the Killer Bees. I don't remember who tried to give us that nickname, though.
Oh, man. I remember who it was. I don't want to say it on air because he's a corny guy. But anyway, moving on. Hello, Bill. How are you?
I think I remember who it is now, too. You said that.
I'm going to text you because we should be nice on the radio and not talk people down because I'm a good guy, Bill.
We should just do it on text. Is that what you're saying?
I don't know that you would want our text messages revealed to the public anyway over the years. Yeah.
No, I would not.
Okay.
I would not.
Let's start here. It's been a busy day for you.
By the way, how's Dunny doing? I feel like I haven't seen him or talked to him in years. I see him on TV when he does the TNT stuff, but I haven't. Is Dunny good?
Yeah, I think he's really good. The boys are good. Jade is good. I mean, his broadcast career is really taken off. I actually think he's Turner's best analyst. I think they should use him on more games.
I've always said I thought he was the best American soccer analyst around. I think the world of Dunny in the job that he does.
Yeah, no, he's really grown into a solid broadcaster. By the way, so have you, Bill. I'm very proud of you.
Well, thanks, Spence. I appreciate it. Having you as a role model and others has certainly helped my career in many ways.
I've always said I just want to be a mentor to young broadcasters during my career, Bill, and you're one of my success stories. You're part of the Checketts tree.
Well, I'm like a little brother, even though I'm a lot older. Not that much older, but older.
Does anyone get that reference? You think there's one listener that understands that reference?
If Shep is listening, he might get it.
And we know that you are, Jason, so hello. Busy day, right? Some cool stuff happening up on the hill. Yeah. Tell us about it, Bill.
It was a good second day of practice. I got to watch a little bit today. No injuries, which is always the best part of camp. I always say when there's a lot of news coming out of a fall camp, whether it's NFL or college, it's never a good thing. So there wasn't a lot of news coming out today. Players talked a little bit to the media afterwards, but good vibes, Spence. I mean, first couple of days of practice have gone well, and I think everybody's, again, you're 2 days in. There really aren't dog days anymore like there used to be where you do 2-a-days or 3-a-days or stuff like that. They just don't do those anymore. It's probably smart that they don't, especially because these guys are year-round training. The old days, you needed double days in the old days because whether it was the NFL or college, guys would go home for the summer and not work out or do anything. And so you needed the first 2 weeks to get them back in shape. You don't need that anymore. So I think programs are a whole lot smarter about that. And I think Morgan Scalley's got a great approach this year. And I think 2 days in, from what I saw today, Devin Dampier looked pretty sharp with the offense. And so I liked what I saw up there, and I think things are trending in the right direction. Again, 2 days in.
Of course. I mean, this time of year, and I've been talking about this over the first couple of shows this week. I'm very comfortable covering this team and this program with more curiosity. And I think it's fine to say, like, we just don't know. We don't know what it's like for a guy who's never been a head coach. We don't know what it's like for a guy that's never been a coordinator. I think it's fine to say that, at least I'll speak for myself and give you the space. Very confident in Morgan Scalley as a head coach and very confident that this program is in good hands right now. But I think it's fine to kind of approach this entire thing with a little bit of curiosity and a little bit of I don't know, and I'm very excited to find out,
No, I think you should. There's very rare occasions where you won't go into a camp with that. But I think this year that's absolutely fine. You've got a lot of new coaches up there that are in some new roles. A guy like Jordan Gross, an all-time great offensive lineman, both NFL and college, but he's never been a college coach. So there's a little bit there. They've got some positions open with 5 guys leaving and 5 new guys coming in, but they also have some guys that have been in the program for a number of years. And, you've got there's some position. There's not a ton of position battles going on, Spence, but there's a few on the offensive line. There's a little bit going on in the secondary as well. So, yeah, I think it's perfectly fine. I think we know enough about this team to know that they're going to be pretty good. But there's still some unknown about this team that maybe we get some answers to in the next 30 days leading up to the opener. or maybe we need a couple of games in the preseason against Idaho or Arkansas or Utah State to get some answers. But I think that that's a pretty healthy approach to this because I think there's a lot to be curious about.
A lot to be curious about, and then again, a lot to be excited about. And I always try to, broach expectations. And, Coach Mack was in here earlier, the legend, and, he goes, 10 wins is expected, right, because of what Witt built. And I'm like, man, 10 wins year one from Morgan, Bill, I think would be a grand slam,
I think it's in the realm of possibility, though,
Sure,
Spence,
sure.
because I think the schedule sets up pretty well for that. I do. I think Mac is probably spot on with that. Could they not win 10? Sure, if there were some injuries and things. But I do believe that if they stay healthy and they aren't really overwhelmed with injuries, I think that there's a good chance this team wins 10 games this year. I think the schedule sets up that way. I see a world where they could be maybe even 8-0 heading into the BYU game. That stretch of games in November is tough. BYU, Arizona, TCU, boom, 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 right in a row, and 2 of the 3 of them on the road. But I think there's no reason to lower the expectations from what Kyle set all those years, because Morgan was part of those. And this team's got a lot of talent, and there's good staff members. So I think keeping the expectations high is perfectly acceptable.
I was talking to Mac about this too, and Porter, of course, for years did coaches shows with Kyle, and I just was chuckling yesterday. Morgan's first media availability, he yells greetings to the, he's very kind and affable and front facing with the media after the first fall practice. And as I continue to say, if you are one who is looking for anti-Witt content, my show's not for you. I will always cheer for Kyle, and none of this is an anti-Kyle sentiment. I'm just struck with the differences between the two men as far as their communication style. And Mac had some funny anecdotes about this. And I just wonder, from your vantage point, now that you've been up there for a number of months with Morgan running the show, if you have like even more insight on what kind of makes these two men similar and what makes them different.
Well, I think their similarities are their approach to football and the emphasis of physicality and toughness. Morgan Scalley, I talked to Jordan Gross after practice today, and Morgan Scalley has tasked him as an offensive line coach to make sure his group is as tough and as mean and as physical as possible. Well, who's that sound like? Well, it sounds like the guy Morgan played for and coached with for 17 years. So I think that doesn't change. The DNA of the program is still going to be about toughness and physicality. And I think if you look at the best programs, Spence, they are. Ohio State, tough, physical. Indiana last year with Kirk Cignetti, the last 2 years, tough, physical. Marcus Freeman at Notre Dame, tough. Dan Lanning at Oregon, that's what they are. So I think Morgan has that, and that's what it's got to be. I think his approach is just going to be different because he's a different guy. He comes from a different generation. He has different views on maybe personnel and going about things and analytics maybe than Kyle did. So I think that's different. There is a different, and you and I have talked about this a dozen times when I've come on with you since Morgan got the job. There's a different vibe and energy, not better or worse, just a different vibe and energy around that program because of Morgan and who he is and his personality. Down deep, he's a football guy through and through, but his personality is different than Kyle's. It just is. He's a little bit more outgoing. He's a little bit more he can be a little fun and playful and sometimes a little goofy, which was never really Kyle's thing. But he knows who he is and he embraces who he is. But when it comes to football, watching him out there on the practice field, he's all about it. He's pacing around just the same way Whittingham did for all those years.
Mac was really good today about I'm not going to say what he perceives because he would know better than I would for sure, but the support Morgan is getting from the boosters and the donors and the community. And not, again, I will preface all of this with saying I'm not saying Kyle did not, but it does appear like, from my vantage point, it does appear that the people that you need more now than ever, you've always needed them, but more now than ever when your boosters and the people that are writing the checks believe in your head coach, it's only going to benefit your program. And it does, feel like, and certainly according to Mac, that that Morgan is getting the support, not just from fans and media and the players and the administration, but the people in this community that you need support from?
He's also done a really good job since getting the job, Spence, of going out and meeting with those people, because you're right. It's a different day and age in college athletics, especially in football. You need as much support, but especially financial support, as you can possibly get from those people that are in your program and around your program. And Morgan's embraced that. I think, the days of just being a football coach or even just overseeing your program and being the quote-unquote CEO, you can't just be that guy anymore. You have to go out and meet those people who support your program where they're at and sell your program to them, sell your vision to them, and get them on board. And you and I both know Morgan very well. He's always been a great recruiter, and this is in his wheelhouse. And I think to Mac's point, I think he's done a really good job of that in his time as head coach.
So Kevin McGivern taking over as the offensive coordinator, and you know this, Bill. I always chuckle when I have Mac in studio when I learn everyone at some point has either worked with him or I should say worked for him. I mean, Mark Harlan was a GA at Arizona when Mac was down there. I had no clue about any of this stuff. So McGivern coached for Mac, and he knows him, right? And Mac told this great story of when Jason Beck and Kevin McGivern were on Mac's staff. He said Jason never said anything. He was quiet. And Kevin was more the proven commodity. Obviously, Jason did a hell of a job last year for Utah, but now it's Kevin's show. And Mac was talking about these packages that will feature Devin Dampier and Bert Ficklin on the field together and how creative he thinks Kevin is. And then went on to really articulate in a way that a great coach can, like Ron McBride, his belief that the difference, and we've all talked about this, but now that Mac has kind of outlined it, I'm ready just to emphasize it. Like, it will be in the vertical throw game. It is going to be a team that is relying on Devin's arm and Burns' arm in a way that maybe Jason did as much. And again, not good or bad, just different. What are your thoughts on that?
No, he's right. I've had a lot of opportunity to sit down with Kevin. He's been on my podcast. I've done the Under the Headset podcast, which I've debuted this month as well. That's out there. Another one drops today. Jordan Gross drops today. It's going to be different. Here's the thing that strikes me. And when I was at a practice today watching, and I was sitting there talking to Sly was out there as well. There's a lot of weapons in this offense, Spence. And when I say a lot of weapons, I mean speed, athleticism, physicality weapons for Devin Dampier. I mean, Devin Dampier is your biggest weapon because he's a dual-threat quarterback. There are so many places and ways that McGivern can go on a given play with the football. It's really pretty impressive to see. It's one of those things, it's kind of like the old saying, are there enough balls to go around? When you have so many, I don't know that there have been this many real options in recent years for a quarterback and an offensive coordinator to work with. So it's going to be really fun when the games begin to see how Kevin McGivern distributes the ball. Some places they have a wide receiver and they throw him the ball 800 times a year and he's got 150 catches for 2,000 yards. That's not going to be Utah this year. There's going to be a lot of guys that touch the ball and have the ability to really impact the play on offense. And I do believe, and again, I've only seen some spring football and 2 fall practices, but I do believe you're going to see the ball pushed down the field with this offense a little bit this year.
Will we finally, shout out Drez Anderson, have a 1,000-yard receiver for Utah football? And if so, who will that be?
It's a good question. I asked this question on my podcast. If I had to hazard a guess now, I would say no. And I say that because of what I just said in the last comment. Now, I might be wrong about this, but I could very well see a scenario where you see 4 wide receivers between 600 and 900 yards receiving. And I do believe that Wayshawn Parker's probably a 1,000-yard back this year. I do believe that. But I think because there's so many options in the throw game, in the passing game, that ball is going to be distributed around. And I think you could see 4 guys with 50-plus catches between 600 and 900 yards. Now, maybe a guy like Braden Pagan's that guy. He could be that guy. My guess would be, because there's so many options, that one guy doesn't see enough targets to get there unless they really hit for some big plays down the field. Just my speculation. Nobody really knows. But I think there's going to be a lot of guys involved in the offense this year.
I agree with you about Wayshawn. I mean, the only thing that got in the way last year was the number of carries. I mean, he averaged 6.6 per and got 981. I mean, if he gets 5 more carries last year, he's a 1,000-yard rusher. Does it feel like it'll be maybe more of a feature role? Of course, there's Daniel Bray. And then with the 5th year of eligibility granted to the class of 2022, I guess Nakari Rogers has thrown his name out there. I don't know if that's in the cards, but could it be more of a RB1 situation for Wayshawn this year?
I think so, because if you remember last year, probably for the first 3 or 4, maybe even 5 games of the year, he and Rogers were really splitting a lot of carries. And I think Wayshawn he then began to separate himself. I think Daniel Bray and Stephen Chavez Soto are going to be big parts of this offense too. But, Wayshawn was only carrying the ball 12, 13, 15 times a game. I could see a world this year where he's getting, 18 to 20 carries. Daniel Bray's getting 8 to 10 carries. Chavez Soto's getting 8 to 10 carries a game. But I think he's going to be a 1,000-yard rusher. The offensive line, I think, is going to be good too. It may not be quite as star-packed and dominant as it was a year ago, but they've got some good players up front. And talking with Jordan Gross today, he really likes the group of guys that he has, and they've come together pretty quickly.
Yeah, Max said they have 6 or maybe even 7 guys that he likes. Do you think you can name the starting unit on the O-line right now?
I asked Jordan Gross that today, so he said no, not quite yet. There's a couple of position groups still battling. Left guard and right tackle are still battling, but I think Alex Harrison's probably your center. I think Zaraway Williams is probably your left tackle, and Keith Olson probably your right guard. Again, these are just guesses. When I asked Jordan, he said nothing was set in stone yet. Those would be my guesses, but I think they've still got some pretty good position battles. And as he told me, he said, we'd like to have those settled sooner rather than later. But he said there's no rush right now. He says we still have a little bit of time to get these guys together.
It does feel like most people believe if there's a positional group that still is battling a bit, is it D-line? Does it feel like that's the group?
D-line a little bit. I would say secondary a little bit too. Not so much at safety, because I think they like their group of safeties. And Nate Tillman, from what I've heard, is having a pretty good fall camp. But I think the nickel spot and the corner spot opposite of Scooby Davis. Scooby Davis is your number 1 outside corner. But there's a good battle going at the nickel spot, which is a tough spot to play. You've got to be really good to play in that nickel and that spot opposite side. They like their guys. They're still kind of battling those reps out a little bit. Sharif Shah's kind of sorting through that right now.
The first edition of the coaches poll came out today, the preseason AFC head coaches poll. I tend to roll my eyes at coaches polls because I feel like, Morgan might just call Paul Kirk in his office and tell Paul to do it. I'm not saying that's happening. I'm just saying I don't know how many people are really paying attention here. But if you combine this with prediction markets and Vegas odds, the top 7 teams in the country feel to be more or less a consensus. Ohio State, Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Notre Dame, Indiana. Then there's Miami. A&M, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, and then maybe Bama. They've got to figure out their starting quarterback, although they have 2 really good players. Texas Tech is the highest-rated Big 12 team at 12. Then BYU's 15. Utah comes in at 21. Houston comes in at 24. So really, and I say this every year, whether it's this coach's poll, whether it's Vegas, prediction odds, what have you, nobody believes there's a national championship contender in the Big 12. And very early on, they actually send the message that the Big 12 is a one-bid league. Like, if you want to be in the CFP, you got to go win the league. Do you agree with that assessment?
No, I don't. Well, I don't know if there's a national championship contender in the league yet. I think that's still to be told. I think Tech, BYU, and Utah all have a really good group of teams. I do agree with what your consensus was, that kind of top 7 in the league, in the country. Shake them up. I thought this was really interesting. I looked at the poll. Indiana came in at 6, which is fine, but they had 14 first-place votes. They had more first-place votes than anybody but the number one team in the country, Ohio State. So I think what that tells me is those 14 people that believe in them really believe in them, but there's a bunch of other people that don't really believe in the this second season or third season of Kirk Cignetti, because to have that many first-place votes but be at number 6 was pretty interesting. Like Texas was 4th, but they had 2 first-place votes. But I think those 7, Ohio State, Oregon, Georgia, Texas, Notre Dame, Indiana, Miami, they kind of feel like they're in their own tier. I don't think that there's a tier within that. I think those are – I don't know that there's a definitive best team. But I will say this. I think that Texas Tech, BYU, and Utah, they all have a chance to be playoff teams this year. I do really believe that. Tech's got a super easy schedule. If the Hammond kid comes back and plays and he's healthy, I think they're probably one of the 2 teams that are in the Big 12 title game just because their schedule is so easy. BYU and Utah, I think I've said this with you. I think that game November the 7th, I think Utah might be 8-0 and BYU might be 7-1, and that might be the play-in game for the other team to get to the Big 12 championship game. I know Houston's at 24. I think Willie Fritz has done a good job down there. We'll see. They had a super soft schedule a year ago. I think Arizona's pretty good. I think Kansas State's pretty good too. With their new head coach, Colin Klein, who's a kind of like Morgan Scalley. He's a guy that was a star at that school. But I think those are the definitive 3 teams. And I do think that the Big 12 is going to get 2 teams in this year. I do. I think that Texas Tech and Utah and BYU, all 3 of those teams, I think 2 of those 3 teams get in the playoff this year.
That would be nice. I hope you're right. Hey, Bill, before I say you loose, where can people go get the latest podcast you guys are doing up at the U?
My Under the Headset podcast, you can get wherever you get your favorite podcast. You can also get the video version of it at the Utah Athletics YouTube channel. I've talked to Kevin McGivern. I've talked to Derek Odom. I've talked to Chad Bumpus. Now I've got Jordan Gross dropping today, and my Crimson Corner podcast, which is up and rolling wherever you get your favorite podcasts. I drop this week. I talk a lot of Utah football, and I've got a special guest, another first-year head coach, Alyssa Dierko, who's one of the best collegiate volleyball players in the history of NCAA volleyball, now the head coach at Utah, taking over the program Beth Lanier built. So those are the 2 podcasts that you can get out, Under the Headset and Crimson Corner. I have started a podcast called Only the Headset, which features me only wearing a headset and nothing else. I don't know if you heard about this. It's shot from the chest up, I hope.
All right, Bill, that's enough. Hey, thanks for the time. You'll be on my pod next week. I'll look forward to that. Thanks, dude.
I'm already prepping myself for my appearance on Spencer Checketts' Reality Check.
Love it, man. Have a good week, Bill. We'll chat soon.
See you, Spence.
Bill Riley, voice of the Utes. Want to let you know that Camp Scally is underway for Utah football. For the best coverage of Utes fall camp, keep it tuned into the OC show and the drive every day. And visit ESPN700sports.com. Camp Scally is brought to you by CenXL JBR, Beer Bar, Citron Cooperman, and your Toyota dealers, your Utah Toyota dealers on your home with the Utes, ESPN 700 and 92.1 FM. All right, 3 hours down, 1 hour to go. Final hour of the program is next right here on ESPN 700. All right. Final segment of the program for a Tuesday. Fun show today, man. Always great to have Mac in. Appreciate his time. He is just the best. Reminder to come hang out with us. I'm telling you, if you've never seen The Head and the Heart, they're an awesome band. So the Ron McBride Foundation is going to sponsor his third annual benefit concert, August 22nd, Sandy Amphitheater. Head and the Heart, I'll be there. Hooked us up with some tickets, so come out and say hello. RonMcBrideFoundation.org is where you find us, so definitely check it out. Appreciate Mac's time. All right, I misbehaved with the clock, as I usually do, so we will get out of here and say goodnight for a Tuesday show. Porter, what's coming up on a Wednesday edition of The Drive?
Yeah, halfway through the work week, Spence, our buddy Sam Bruckhouse is going to stop by. We're going to be previewing, of course, Utah, Big 12 football at large, talk about that coaches poll and more. We will have an RSL standout from tonight's match, of course, League's Cup action against Tigres. And then from there, we'll have Aaron Roderick on the program. First day of BYU fall camp. Got to keep our eyes down south as well. So we'll talk a lot of football, little football, and get you halfway through your work week.
Got to keep our eyes down south on BYU. Let's just clean that one up before we say goodnight.
That's
on
you.
I'm just saying. All right, special. I'm focused on the new podcast I release, Only the Headset.
I like it.
It's very exciting.
I like the idea.
Special thank you today to Ron McBride, of course, our buddy Bill Riley and Brian Dunseth. If you miss any of the sound, ESPN700sports.com is where you go. Check out the mobile app and support our podcast page called The Drive with Spence Checketts. Wherever you get your shows. For Porter, I'm Spence saying goodnight. Have a great Tuesday evening. We'll talk to you on a Wednesday Drive. As always, you can catch it right here on ESPN 700.